From NPR News in Washington, I'm Shay Stevens. Texans are bracing for heavy rain and possible flooding in the next few days from what's left of Tropical Storm Bill. The storm has weakened since coming ashore yesterday afternoon, but forecasters say it could drench areas that are still recovering from deadly flooding over the Memorial Day weekend. The Senate has approved and sent to the House a measure that's aimed at ensuring that President Obama's executive order banning torture is permanent. As NPR's David Wellman reports, the bill requires all government agencies to use only the interrogation techniques that are spelled out in the Army Field Manual.
The 78-21 vote in favor of codifying into law the ban on torture followed an appeal on the Senate floor by California Democrat Dianne Feinstein.
Whatever one may think about the CIA's former detention and interrogation program, we should all agree that there can be no turning back to the era of torture.
Feinstein's call was seconded by John McCain, the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee, who is himself a former prisoner of war.
Our enemies act without conscience. We must not.
The anti-torture measure is an amendment to a defense policy bill that the White House has threatened to veto for other reasons. David Wellman, NPR News, Washington.
The United Nations Refugee Agency says that the European Union has to help Greece manage a massive influx of economic migrants and refugees arriving by sea. As Joanna Kakissis reports from Athens, Greek islands are struggling to house thousands of migrants.
More than 55,000 migrants, most of them refugees from Syria, have crossed the Aegean Sea from Turkey to Greece so far this year. Nearly half have arrived on rubber rafts on the island of Lesbos. The island is struggling to house them. Imad Hispani and his two young sons slept at a bus stop near a beach in the north where they landed. By law, they cannot board a bus for the main port about 43 miles away to be registered.
We have to walk. It's a bad choice, but we haven't another choice.
Greeks and tourists offer bottled water and food. Because Greece is broke, Lesbos is largely relying on donations to help refugees. For NPR News, I'm Joanna Kakissis in Athens.
The Consul General of Ireland says he's taken 2 wreaths to the site of a balcony collapse that killed 6 people and injured 7 others in Berkeley, California.
We laid 2 wreaths here. The first one is on behalf of the government and people of Ireland, and the second one is on behalf of the Irish communities of the Bay Area.
The 6 people who died in the collapse were exchange students from Ireland. Authorities say the victims were celebrating a friend's 21st birthday early Tuesday when the platform plunged 50 feet to the ground. The cause is still under investigation. This is NPR News. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the number of births in the United States increased last year for the first time in 7 years. The CDC says about 53,000 more babies were born in 2014 than in the year before, an increase of about 1%. Meanwhile, births to teen mothers in the U.S. reached another historic low. The largest toxic algae bloom in over a decade is wreaking havoc along the coast from California to Washington state, and Ashley Ahern of member station KUOW reports that it's prompting sweeping closures of some commercial crab and shell fisheries.
Wildlife managers spotted a sea lion on the southern Washington coast that was having seizures. They had to euthanize it. The cause is Pseudonychia. It's a type of algae that releases a neurotoxin. If people eat shellfish or crabs contaminated with it, they can also suffer seizures, short-term memory loss, and even death. The algae are thriving, thanks in part to an abnormal blob of warm water off the northwest coast. Vera Traynor with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says this could be a taste of future climate change impacts in the region.
To have big coast-wide closures all up and down the coast in the spring is really unusual.
The State Department of Health rigorously tests commercial shellfish, but warns that recreational harvesters should check the DOH website. For NPR News, I'm Ashley Ahern in Seattle.
The Golden State Warriors beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 105-97 last night to win their first NBA title in 40 years. Guard Andre Iguodala scored 25 points in Game 6 to lead the Warriors to victory and become MVP. This is NPR News in Washington.